Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our latest session of our ongoing webinar series. This one is called Crafting Your Legacy, Building a Comprehensive Estate Plan. My name is Tom Bittinger, and I'm with the marketing team here at Wealth Enhancement. And before we get started, I just want to go over a few quick housekeeping items. One, this is being recorded. So if you need to step out for any reason, if you missed something, don't worry. We are recording this, and a replay will be sent your way as soon as possible. And then there will be a Q&A session at the end as well. So feel free to submit questions using the questions panel on the side of your GoToWebinar menu. We got a lot to get into, so I want to introduce today's presenter. Michael Goff is the Regional Vice President of our new client development team. He's based in Brentwood, Tennessee. And again, we got a lot to go over, Michael, so I'm going to hand it off to you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Tom, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I like to call this fun estate planning 101. So we're going to dive in because there's a lot of complex topics and things that, as always, we tend to say it this way. We just want you to walk away today with at least one valuable piece of information that if you currently have an advisor, you can take back to your advisor team, or if you're in the process of looking for one, make sure to reach out and dive deeper into some of these topics. But we believe this is going to be super valuable for your time today. So estate planning really is about control and clarity and peace of mind. It starts with planning ahead, thinking about the future. And one thing I want to clarify too, when we talk about estate, I know it sounds grandiose. You know, growing up, anytime I heard someone had an estate or a will or a trust, I immediately thought, man, this is something for the uber wealthy or the elite. But to break it down, what is an estate? It's your stuff. It's all of your stuff, anything from your house to bank accounts to life insurance to retirement accounts. Estate planning is simply just deciding what happens with your stuff when you pass away, and ideally doing it in a way that keeps the courts out of the process. I know talking about estate planning can feel uncomfortable at times because it forces us to think about our own mortality. That's never fun. And then we have to have these conversations with our friends and our loved ones, and they can be emotional and they can be tense. But the truth is, you know, estate planning isn't just about dividing up your stuff when you pass away. It's about, what do you want your legacy to be? You know, you've worked your entire careers to amass assets and wealth. And, you know, some people that are here watching this, you're going to think, what do I want to give back to my kids? Or maybe grandkids, or I even talked to a client the other day that they had worked their entire lives because they wanted to set up their great grandkids for success. Other people come to this process and they say, you know what, my kids they're set, they're great, but I want to leave behind some charities that I care about. So estate planning, again, it comes from, what is your why? What is your purpose? What is the legacy that you want to leave behind? And if we do that well, your estate is really going to reflect what you care about the most. And it also makes sure that your loved ones are cared for now and in the future. Couple other tidbits about estate planning that are important. They can help you avoid unnecessary legal costs and delays. They can transfer your wealth in a tax efficient way, and they can protect loved ones who might otherwise be vulnerable. So let's dive in further. We're going to cover 3 key areas today: necessary documents, meaningful conversations, and some tips around that you can have with your friends, family, and loved ones. And again, some tax efficient transfer strategies. Again, hopefully by the end of the session, you're going to be able to walk away with some practical ideas to take with your advisor if you haven't already started your estate planning process. All right, necessary documents. I want you to take a look at this screen for a second and ask yourself, are you one of the 76% of Americans who don't have a will? That is a mind-blowingly large number, in my opinion. And wills don't have to be large, drawn-out processes. There are some states that you can even have a holographic will that you can literally write on a piece of paper, and they will work in courts as far as being able to give out your assets when you pass away. But let's dive into wills a little bit here. They're the most basic estate planning document there is, and it tells the world exactly where you want your assets distributed when you pass away, and it ensures your wishes are carried out to the letter. Couple things about wills here. It clearly outlines how your assets should be distributed after your death. It enables you to name an executor responsible for administering your estate plan. Think about an executor as the person who would control where the money or where the asset goes based on what you've wanted them to do. Also, very important here, it allows you to name who should care for your children and or pets. So if you are someone that has children under the age of 18, if anything happens to you and you don't have a will and you don't name who should be the guardian of your kids, you're putting them at risk of going to the court and them naming a legal guardian for them. Also, it facilitates a smooth and efficient process for transferring your estate. Couple misconceptions here. Tune into this. I want you to pay attention about wills. Wills don't actually own anything, meaning there's no transfer of assets into a will. Wills don't avoid probate. I'm going to say that one more time. Wills don't avoid probate. What a will does is it tells the court who should inherit, but the court process is still required to validate and enforce it. The will simply directs where you want things to go when you pass away. And we will touch on what probate court is and some facts around that here in a little bit. But if you get one thing out of this, no matter where you're at, if you own a home, if you have kids, if you have assets of any kind, I would really encourage you to look into drafting a will for yourself. All right, moving on, we're going to talk about some advanced directives. And what you're going to notice on the screen here, if you go left to right, you're going to see power of attorney, living will, and medical power of attorney. And I want to dive in just for a second of some of the nuances of these three and what they can mean for you. Basically, an advanced directive, they're there in case you become incapacitated and can no longer make decisions for yourself. So let's start with power of attorney. This document helps authorize someone to handle legal and financial decisions if you can't. They go into effect upon your incapacity or any other trigger event that you specify. And someone like this might pay your bills, manage your investments, sell property for you, signing contracts, handling taxes, that type of thing. Now, there are three different types of power of attorney. We're not going to dive in super deep to each one of these, but I just want to make you aware of the differences here. We have general power of attorney, which is what we talked about above. They have the broad authority over the financial and legal matters. We also have a limited power of attorney, and this person or individual is authorized to restricted specific tasks or timeframes that you set out for them. And then we have durable power of attorney, which remains valid even if you, the principal, becomes incapacitated. Now, if we move on to the living will here, this is more for the healthcare side of things. A living will gives you specific instructions or gives specific instructions about your medical care, not financial or property matters, if you become incapacitated and unable to communicate. It also goes into effect immediately as soon as you pass away. Now, lastly, you're going to see medical power of attorney there on the screen. This is also known as a healthcare proxy. So in case you hear that terminology thrown around, you're aware. But this authorizes someone to make medical decisions on your behalf. So again, power of attorney, they handle the legal and the financial side. Medical power of attorney, just like the namesake, the attorney handles everything on the medical front. This can cover medical treatment, procedures, long-term care, end-of-life decisions, and consent or refusal of care as well. All right, another important piece of information here, beneficiary designations. These are given directly to financial institutions like banks, insurance companies, or retirement plan administrators about who should receive assets in those accounts when you pass away. Again, we're going to say life insurance policies, retirement accounts, payable on death, bank accounts, transfer on death. These are all things that you might hear or need to think about. Very important point here. Again, I want you to think about this. Beneficiary designations supersede your will. What that means is if your will says one thing, but your account has a named beneficiary, the account goes to that beneficiary Say that 7 times fast. The account will go to the named beneficiary regardless of what the will states. An example here, if your will leaves everything to your spouse, but your life insurance policy lists your sibling as a beneficiary, then the insurance payout will go to your sibling. So just make sure that everything is up to date with beneficiary designations when it comes to your estate planning. All right, trust. This is another thing. Number one, there's 2 types of trust. We have revocable trust and irrevocable trust. And today we're primarily going to focus on revocable because that's, 90+% of people out there and clients and prospects that come to us, they're looking at revocable trust. So we're going to focus on that. Again, people think these are for the uber wealthy, and that's not necessarily so. But if you have amassed a good amount of assets in your life, you have some real estate, you have your retirement accounts, some brokerage accounts, you have kids, trust could be something very beneficial for you. So I want you to tune in and listen here. Let's see, what do I want to focus on trust? So let's talk about the definition. Number one, trusts are basically a legal arrangement where you, the grantor, transfer assets into a trust. So see the difference of a will? A trust is actually a living entity as soon as you sign off on it in front of a notary, and you can transfer assets into a trust. You can change or revoke any of these things during your lifetime, but they become a living entity. So again, you can put real estate into a trust. You can put bank accounts, investment accounts, life insurance policies. They're legal instruments that hold assets on behalf of beneficiary or beneficiaries. One of the positives here, you remain in control or in charge of a trust, and you have flexibility to adjust it as life changes while you're alive. For instance, divorce, maybe you have more kids, you get married, maybe you accumulate new assets. You can amend your trust at any time while you're alive and competent. Properly structured trust also avoid probate. So you know how when we were talking about wills, the wills still go to court, but it tells the court where to divvy your assets out. A properly structured trust can avoid probate and the delays that go along with it. AARP recently did a study, and I just want to kind of tell you guys what probate means so that you have a greater understanding here. So number one, what is probate? Well, that's the court stepping in to oversee your transfer of assets. The will gives instructions. Now, average probate time in this AARP study was 9 months to 2 years. Average cost of probate was 3 to 8%. So again, I want you to think about that for your loved ones or your legacy or whoever you're leaving your estate behind to. They're already dealing with losing you and the emotions and everything that goes along with that. Do we want to have them going through this process for 9 months to 2 years? It's long, it's lengthy, and it's costly, 3 to 8%. So that's one of the benefits here of a trust, is it can help you and your loved ones avoid all of those things. Now, this is huge as well. Another big positive of trust is they're not a matter of public record, meaning you can keep your privacy intact. Wills can be a part of public record so people can see which kids are getting what, where are you putting your money, how much did you have in your estate. A trust helps you avoid going down that road and keeps things more private. What if your kids are minors? What if they have drug or alcohol issues? We were talking to a client a few weeks ago, and 2 of his kids doing amazingly well, good savers, starting their own retirement accounts. And one of them, just like all of we know, there's always one, that child had a spending problem. Any amount of money that came in, they were immediately spending it. And our client asked us, can I set up a trust to help be more specific on when and how that child receives money? And the answer is yes. So again, trust, they're great to give you more control over when and where those assets get placed. Now, trusts are more expensive to set up than a simple will. That is true. But if it makes sense for you and you've amassed these assets and this wealth and you value privacy and all the things I mentioned before, the price you pay up front tends to save the time, money, and stress on the back end. So again, if this is something that you're thinking about, get with your financial advisor or feel free to contact us and we'd love to talk with you about it. All right, let's dive on to another part of this, meaningful conversations. Again, let's face it, when we're talking about passing away and leaving assets behind, it's never a fun conversation to have, or it's rarely a fun conversation to have, but it's very important. So let's dive into this. We hear stories all the time, like the one on screen here. You know, when my mother passed away, we found so many accounts in so many different places, and there was no open communication. And this is the key. I never want to live through that again. Or the bottom line there, dad's investments were in his head. I know that feeling. Nobody knew where any of it was, and my mom and I are still cleaning this up. So people oftentimes think your silence is sparing your loved ones from the stress and the heartache, but in reality, it often creates bigger problems down the road. So how do we start these conversations? Number one, they're highly emotional. Experts, the scientists and the psychologists out there, what they say is approach this as a matter of fact. Everyone involved should understand that estate planning is about honoring your true wishes. I know as parents, we tend to want to put everything on our kids and make it about them. But again, at the end of the day, these are your wishes with your estate. As you prepare, I want you to consider this. What do you want to accomplish? One of the things that I coach clients on is this question is a great way to frame it. What do I want people to think, feel, or do? So as you go into these conversations, think about that. If you're talking to your kids or your loved ones, what do I want little Johnny to think, feel, and do after this conversation? Do I want them to feel safe, things are taken care of, you know, that I love them? Kind of go through that thought process ahead of time. And then when you get into the conversation, just like the slide says here, it helps you provide clear instructions in advance, make your family aware of what your actual wishes are so they're not guessing. You can invite input on portions of your plan if you see fit. And then the biggest thing here, clarify. Clarify certain things that are non-negotiable for you that matter to you there. And then one other quick little line that I want you to have in your back pocket is, like, what better gift than to give your kids of saying, like, no matter what happens to me, I want you to be taken care of. Again, good feel good line there. So when you're ready to start talking about your estate planning with your family, realize that timing matters. You know, try to choose a moment when everyone is calm and stable, and hopefully not during the crisis or the most stressful point. Waiting till emotions are high can make planning nearly impossible. And we also know from the science and the psychology that if we're trying to make decisions when our emotions are very high, we tend to make poorer decisions. Number two, invite the right people. Ensure all of your family members who need to be involved are present for that conversation. Explain why these discussions matter, not just for you, but for their peace of mind as well. And also trust your instincts. Like, if certain individuals might create tension or cause more stress, consider separate conversations with those people. And remember, this could be a multiple meeting scenario. I know we all want to say, hey, we're going to do this one time and get it done. And if that happens, great. But it may take 1, 2, or 3 meetings to make sure all the different individuals are talked to and feel comfortable with your plan moving forward. And lastly, number 3, always explain the why. Like, be clear about your why in initiating these talks and why their participation is important for you. And emphasize that open dialogue now prevents stress and conflict later down the road. Because when you're planning together, you're giving your loved ones clarity and peace of mind. A couple conversation starters. So if you're watching this and maybe you're thinking about going down this road, take a screenshot here or write down some of these. Maybe they'll help you get that conversation rocking and rolling. So you're going to get everything in order, schedule a time that works for everyone, invite all the necessary people, and then you're going to sit down and have the conversation. So big key here, use intentional language. I think about this not to really lower how important this is, but when I talk to my 3-year-old daughter, I have to be intentional with everything I say. And for all of you watching this that have kids, you understand what I'm saying. They'll take something that you said here and they will run with it if you are just not clear, not concise, and intentional about your language. So same thing when we're talking to loved ones during stressful times. Use that intentional language, remind everyone this is what you want. And again, ask yourself that question over and over. What do I want them to think, feel, and do? Another option here is setting ground rules. Again, you're going to see on the slide multiple ideas, no interrupting, all perspectives are valid, no discussion of past events. What is discussed here stays here. We say keeping that in the circle of trust. So anyways, again, think about some of these lines that you can use that can help you moving forward here. All right, let's dive into the tax efficiencies here. So when we're talking about estate taxes, here's some simple terms. Any estate valued below the federal estate tax exemption is not subject to estate taxes when assets are transferred. Any estates that are valued above the exemption on the screen will owe taxes on the amounts over the limit. So you'll see on the left side, we have TCJA, which is the Tax Cut and Jobs Act. I'm going to dive into some of the details here. After December 31st, 2025, so coming up next month, again, pay attention to that, December 31st, 2025, the federal estate and gift tax exemption will decrease. It's going to go down from approximately 13.61 million per person to 7.14, and that's indexed for inflation. Now, if you're looking at this and maybe you're in estate planning mode, this should possibly give you a sense of urgency here to take some action. High net worth individuals should look at gifting strategies or trust planning now to take advantage of those higher exemption rates before they're reduced on January 1st, 2026. In the middle column, you're going to see the One Big Beautiful Bill Act passed in July. Now, what this has done is this law has permanently increased the lifetime federal estate tax exemption to $15 million per person starting in 2026 and $30 million if you're a married couple. Again, that's with annual inflation adjustments. The only way this exemption could be reduced is through future tax legislation. So it seems to be permanent as far as we know. Now let's move on to taxes by state. So depending on where you're watching this from, you could be in one of the lucky states like I believe it's Maryland that has both a state tax, state estate tax, and also an inheritance tax. So again, look at the screen. 12 states impose that said state estate tax, and 4 states impose an inheritance tax. The difference, estate taxes are paid by the estate before assets are distributed. Inheritance tax is paid by the beneficiaries after they receive the assets. So I want to say that one more time. Estate tax is paid by the estate before assets are distributed. Inheritance tax is paid by the beneficiaries after they receive assets. State exemptions are often much lower than the federal level. So even if you're clear federally, you still owe some state taxes. Even if you live in one of the 16 highlighted on this map, just pay close attention to the wealth transfer strategies that we're going to cover next year. All right, so if providing for your loved ones is your main why, we're going to talk about 4 strategies here that can help you out on that front. Number 1, direct gifting. Now, direct gifting is nice because it can reduce your taxable estate by taking advantage of the annual gift tax exemption and giving directly to your loved ones. The annual gift exemption for 2025 is $19,000 per person. So write that down if you're thinking about this. The annual gift for 2025 is $19,000 per person, and you can give to as many people as you want completely tax-free. So this can help reduce the size of your estate. Next, we have an irrevocable life insurance trust. This is specifically designed to hold and own life insurance policies, and it makes the trust owner of the policy and the beneficiary. This means death benefits of the policy are transferred to the trustee, and then the trustee distributes those benefits according to the terms of the trust. This is beneficial because it effectively removes the life insurance policy from your taxable estate and creates some liquidity for your loved ones. Now, next, number 3 on the screen here, we have the Spousal Lifetime Access Trust, or SLAT. And with this trust, the donor spouse makes a gift to the SLAT and gives up all rights to the funds. But the neat thing about this trust is that the beneficiary spouse gets immediate access to the gifted funds as income and principal. So you remove those assets from your estate, and your spouse doesn't have to wait for you to pass away to get access to those funds. Your spouse can make withdrawals during your lifetime, another key point here, and it's not counted as part of your taxable estate. And finally, we have Qualified Personal Residence Trust. You got to love all these acronyms, QPRT. This type of trust removes your residence from your estate, but you can still live in it for a set number of years. And then at the end of the designated amount of time, ownership of the property transfers to your beneficiaries. So if your why is providing for your loved ones, look into these 4 avenues and they might be something beneficial for you. Now, if your why is more of you're charitably inclined and you want to give, check out these. Number 1 here, we have a charitable remainder trust. How this works is assets are split up between initial beneficiary and a charity. You receive steady income stream during the trust term, and then the remainder will go to charity. Why this matters is it will remove assets from your estate while providing you income for life. Charitable led trust. Now, how this works, the charity receives income first, and the remaining assets pass to your beneficiaries. This helps you support a cause now while preserving wealth for your heirs later down the road. Donor advised funds, we talked about this on our tax strategy webinar, but when you donate to a DAF or a donor advised fund, you get an immediate tax deduction and recommends grants over time. This is a flexible, cost-efficient way to manage charitable giving, and we like to say donor advised funds help you kind of keep the hand on the wheel and dictate where those funds go a little bit more. And lastly, here we have private foundations. This is a way where you can establish a family-controlled entity to direct charitable contributions. This helps you maximize your control while doing your legacy building, even though there's always an up and down here. The setup costs tend to be higher with these private foundations. All right, crucial considerations here. When you're creating your estate management plan, you have to identify 2 things. What's the value of the estate and what are your objectives? Now, when you're going through determining what the value of your estate is and are, we have your real estate. So do you have primary residence, vacation homes, investment properties? You have your personal property, which could be vehicles, jewelry, collectibles, bank accounts and cash. Your investment vehicles, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, your retirement accounts, your 401ks, your IRAs, business interests, life insurance policies, all of these things add up to the value of your estate. Now, knowing your tax threshold, again, like we talked about a few slides ago, the federal estate tax exemption, $13.99 million in 2025. 2026, it rises to $15 million. And then let's jump back into, your estate management objectives, kind of the why again. What do you want to accomplish here? Who should inherit your assets? Do you want equal or equitable distribution? How will you provide for your spouse if you pass away first? Your children, are they minors? If so, who will be their guardian? Very important thing. If you happen to get in a car wreck and you don't have this stuff laid out in your will or in your trust, again, you're leaving it up for the court to decide, and that's not something that makes us feel warm and fuzzy inside. Who will be the decision makers? Who will handle your finances if you're incapacitated? Who will make the medical decisions for you? Do your heirs need liquid cash to pay for some of the estate taxes or settle some debts? And then lastly, kind of the special considerations, charitable giving again. Do you have anything that really just works on your soul and gives you the warm and fuzzies and you want to give to those charities, great, set them up. Business succession plans, protecting assets from creditors or divorce. These are some things that, again, just things to consider. All right, so in closing here today, we covered multiple strategies that will help you protect your wealth, minimize some of the taxes, and create a lasting legacy, whether it's for your family or those charitable causes. And just remember, estate planning isn't just about the numbers. It's making sure that your wishes are honored and your loved ones are cared for. And if you haven't started this process, please start considering to do so now. Life is short and we never know what can happen. So before life changes, you know, get after it. It's just one of those things that we can't tell you to do enough. And then here's what I want you to do next. Actually, you know what, Tom, I'm going to bring you back in here to come in because I think we're going to have some Q&A. So I don't want to dive into some of the last thoughts that I had until we bring you back in.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely do have some questions here. First one, we have a revocable trust and are in our mid-70s. What are some late in life recommendations? Our adult children are doing quite well financially, and we have 7 grandkids, all with college funds seeded by us.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I would say kudos to you, number one, for already being on top of the game and doing well, and giving something back to your grandkids there with the college fund. So if you're already set up there, one thing to consider to look into would be look into what's called a dynasty trust. It's just another way where you could set things up for your grandkids. A lot of people are worried about, well, what if my grandkids get married one day? Like, one of the number one questions we get is, well, what if I give to my kids or my grandkids and then they get divorced and their spouse tries to take the assets I was leaving behind to them? So we call it either a grandchildren's legacy trust or a dynasty trust. So those might be some other options to look into just for some added protection and control to keep it in the bloodline, so to speak.
Awesome. Next one here. How do you keep wealth in the family protected from divorce, litigation, etc.? So kind of building off of the last question there.
Yeah, same exact one there is I would look into those legacy trusts and just be real particular when you're talking with your advisor or your estate attorney about what you want your wishes to be. And the beauty of a trust is again, like we talked about in the very beginning, we're planning ahead. And if that's a worry for you, you can get that language specifically written out in your trust to make sure, again, whether it's divorce or any other things that could happen down the road, that you and your family and your assets are going exactly where you want them to.
Okay, I want to be aware of everyone's time, but I want to get to a couple more questions here. How do you identify and what is the cost for a trustee or executor for those who do not have appropriate younger family members to serve?
Yeah. That's a great question. And number one, I tell people, if you don't already have an advisor and a estate attorney, then one thing that you can do is you want to interview people. And you obviously want someone you feel comfortable with that's also knowledgeable of the law, because when it comes to wills, trust, and setting up your estate, signatures matter, changes matter. So I tell people, look for someone with 10 or more years of experience, someone that you trust. And if you do have an estate attorney, ask them, hey, who's a fiduciary that you know? We're fiduciaries here at Wealth Enhancement, but all that means is someone's going to act in my best interest or my family's best interest, and they have to legally. So I always tell people, have your interview questions set up. They need to make you feel comfortable. They need to have great communication. I like to say 10 years or more of experience, because there's just so many details that go into crafting a will and a trust and doing it well to make sure that you and your family are taken care of. So I hope some of those help.
All right. I think we only have time for one more question here. I'm 75, retired with $100,000 a year pension and Social Security income. I only need about $60,000 to $70,000 to live here in New Jersey. My house is paid and I have minimal health care costs. I want to help others, but there are so many charities. What should I do? What is worth saving for or investing?
Well, I'm smiling because that's such a great place to be in. So kudos to you, whoever this is, on setting yourself up very well in life. And now you get to have some fun. You get to consider who do I would get out a piece of paper and I would write down, I call it a brain dump. Take 5 minutes and go, what are the things that I care about the most? What brings passion to my life? And start writing down. Just don't think about it. Whatever comes to mind, write down the people or the charities or the things that really light your soul on fire, and then see how large is that list? Is it 3? Is it 5? Is it 10? And if you come up with a ton of stuff, then look into some of those donor advised funds or charitable remainder trust and some of those different strategies that we talked about in our tax webinar that we talked about today. But you're in an amazing spot. So have some fun, brain dump all the ideas or the things that you would love to give back to on paper. And then again, if you need help diving deeper into a plan, we can do that with you, and we can help you go, hey, we'll give this much this year, this much next year, and so on, and kind of create that gifting strategy, so to speak, for all these charities that you care so much about. But great question.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Michael. Like I said, I think that's going to be it for the questions for today. If anything that we didn't get to, we will have somebody reach out to you individually later on, so don't worry about that. Again, this session is being recorded, so we will get the replay sent out to everyone. And anything that you missed, I know we covered a lot of stuff really quickly. We got a lot of great information and content on our YouTube channel, on our blog. A lot of the same topics that we covered, we go a lot more in depth there, so please check that out. Michael, I want to thank you so much for joining us again today. And I want to thank everyone for joining as well, and keep on the lookout for next webinar.
Wonderful. And I just want to say in closing, thank you all for joining and for the questions. For those of you that are sitting here watching this and you're in a great spot, like some of our listeners who had the questions, kudos to you, great job. That's amazing. And if you're watching this going, oh my goodness, it's hitting me, I don't have a plan yet, then please, please, please consider all the things that we talked about. Think about, why do you want to do this? What do you want to give back to? What do you want your legacy to be? And let this be your signal to start putting those wheels in motion. So thank you all again, and have a wonderful day.